Hello and thank you for joining us in this edition of the Topical Discussion. A very good morning. My name is Simon Kagwanjala. Well, as the debate rages on the Lumu bill that has become a thorn in the flesh of some circles, it's eliciting quite mixed reactions from both sides of the political aisle, with a lot of cynicism and skepticism coming in from the opposition. The National Unity Platform, voices from the National Unity Platform tend to point this bill to something sinister, while there are also voices that are saying perhaps it's time for the country now to think of amending the way the leader of opposition is elected in parliament to ensure that there is consensus across the board from the entire leadership, or rather from the entire representation of the opposition in parliament. We want to dig deep into the noise. We want to dig deep into the theories and the skepticism. What does it mean, and what does the future hold for Lumu's bill? I'm joined this morning by Counsel George Musi. He's the lawyer for the National Unity Platform, together with Honorable Medard Lubega Segona, Member of Parliament, Busiro East. Good to have you.
My pleasure. Good morning, Simon. Good morning, George, and our viewers out there.
There is a bad tag that's been now fixed on the title OHT, but you still hold on to it.
Well, you mean I should sink into ignorance? Because if somebody said he's ignorant of what it means, you want me to join him? My duty as a citizen is to educate him. I thank you.
Good. Counsel George, good to have you and a very good morning.
Pleasure to be here for the viewers and humble to be here with my judge and senior colleague. You didn't mention he's a member of the National Unity Platform.
Oh, yes.
And you didn't mention that I'm your personal lawyer. So please.
Those are details. Okay. Those are details.
I thought you wanted to make the introductions proper.
But if I could start with you, Honorable Segona, how much appreciation or grasp have you made of the Lumu proposed amendment?
No, I know the principles. I have not grasped his amendment because I haven't read it. He has not given it out. I have been away for the record, and I've only been reading on social media and following, reading some, of course, newspapers, that he's proposing a bill along some lines from what I read, the same of which I have attempted in the past.
That was 2014?
No. It was much later than that.
2018?
Yes, 2018.
2018,
I did bring, for me, I brought an amendment. For him, he's proposing. I did bring an amendment in the Administration of Parliaments Act, which didn't succeed. So from what I've been reading, is that he proposes an election to be conducted for a leader of the opposition amongst opposition parties in Parliament. My proposal, I don't know, I hope it's along the same line, was that the party with the leading majority in the opposition would propose 3 names, out of which the entire membership of the opposition in Parliament would conduct a vote and elect from those 3. The purpose for the hybrid was intended to ensure that you have participation by the party, which has been voted as number 2 in the country. Thus assume you have had a democratic election. The Ugandans have chosen one party to be in government. The next group has chosen another party to be in the opposition. But there could be other parties in the opposition. So the leader in the opposition is this party which got more seats in parliament. you've got to understand that not necessarily got more votes in the country, but got more seats in parliament, because we are talking about lead of the opposition in parliament. So my view was that have some level of participation, recognize that Ugandans have voted more members of that party ought to take leadership in parliament. But at the same time, this person is going to lead members of parliament from different parties. They also need some connection with this person who is going to lead them. That bill did not see light. You know, when I proposed it, I think I only received bashing from one opposition member, just one, who apparently had not read it and did not read it up until the end. And the attack was that this is sponsored by the NRM. Of course, I laughed and scoffed. I went to the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee where it was committed, and where I was and remained a member. I was defeated by a majority who were NRM. But
then it was the NRM fighting.
No, actually I was fought by two parties. I was fought by NRM and FDC, including my own brother, Ibrahim Semuju. He came to the committee and fought me fiercely. So when we exited the committee, I told him, but you man, I thought we were friends. He says, yes, but the government you are bringing down is my government. So, but from his argument, he said, the law recognizes the party in opposition, not parties. And I said, I'm alive to that. That's why I am proposing to change it to recognize that there are other parties. Of course, it was out of frustration. Frustration being that we were arguing, no, let us be catered for as other parties in the opposition. I was in DP. Now, of course, it became a contest of law, politics, and ego, fused with frustration. I lost the bill to both NRM and FDC.
Are the same circumstances playing out now, and you think it is right?
That you need to hear from Honorable Lumu.
But in your
When
analysis,
I came back yesterday morning, of course, I found that the environment I found was not pleasant. I was not happy. As a person who has been in Parliament for some time, as a person who thinks that the opposition needs to be strengthened, one, I took off time to call the Honorable Lumu and asked him, what is this? He said, but you have proposed it before. I said, yes. My mind has not changed, but look at the kind of dust it's raising. I think one of the things they raised related to the Gulu sitting, that he did write to the Right Honourable Leader of the Opposition and proposed to invite caucus to discuss, which views were not taken. I appeared on your sister TV here sometime before Gulu. And I said, no. When I was asked to make a comment on Gulu, I said I will not express my views. Because one, my leader has expressed views, and I also expect that we shall have occasion to discuss this in Shadow Caucus, in the opposition caucus. Unfortunately, we did not. So when I shared with Honorable Lumu, apparently that was one of the frustrations. But I think also the other frustrations which have dodged our parties before in the opposition. Don't forget, unlike the party in government, we are a conglomeration of parties. Number one, there are those we call smaller parties because they are smaller than us, or we have belonged to a smaller party before, so it's not derogatory, it's descriptive. There are even those that have signed the memoranda with the ruling government. So it is a an issue you must approach with a very balanced and objective mind.
Well, if you could hold it there. Councillor George, this is rather a delicate issue that has now slipped into a lot of cynicism, a lot of insulting, a lot of pessimism and everything that you can describe. What explains the fury from National Unity Platform?
Of course, you just have to look at the context of the most recent developments that have happened between Parliament and the current leader of opposition, the leadership of Parliament. And that provides good context for that, what you're terming as fury. Of course, any move to bring a law in Parliament is a mixture of law and politics. And just like Honorable Medad says, even his was, every action in Parliament has a bit of politics and should be guided by the law. And if you're to look at the context, for instance, of the move by Honorable Richard Lumu, my good friend and brother, remember when they went to Gulu, on day one, I think it was Honorable Sechikobo who attempted to resuscitate his issue of the motion that had seemed to have collapsed in Kampala. And when he sought guidance, the Speaker's guidance was that this sitting is purely for Northern Uganda issues. In her words, she said, don't you reserve your manyanga for the Kampala House. This, please respect. Those are the words she used. Respect the people of Northern Uganda, don't bring. So the following day, when Honorable Richard Lumu attempted to moved indeed, sought leave, I think it was Honorable Mapenduzi and another person who attempted to remind him of the Speaker's guidance of the previous day. That no, we said we are discussing regional issues. So the Speaker seemed to move away from the guidance. So, and from then on, it seemed to take a political tone. But for me, I would rather, so that could be, the context could be seen as, and I know that right from the onset, Honorable Lumu's move shall be, without doubt, seen as more political than legal. When we went into multipartism, it was a mixture. Even if you look at both the Constitutional Amendment and the Administration of Parliament Act, we seem to pick different, because we are not running a 100% multi-party system. We have a presidential system. We got parts and pieces, some bit of copy and paste. Because if you look at the model in Kenya, they have a minority leader. Then there are other models, a fully multi-party system, where they actually elect parties. They don't even elect MPs. So, and then the Westminster one, where the minority leader is actually like the government in waiting. So what we have in Uganda, and I remember even in 2006, I think it was the late Honorable Kalega Njuba, who wanted even to resign, such that Dr. Besigye can come in a by-election and possibly become the leader of opposition. Right. In 2006 when I just got into parties. The bigger context has always been that you have a person who has been a runner-up presidential candidate, possibly who's out of the house. And then what did the lawmakers intend? In a full multi-party system, there's a majority party and then there's a minority one. And you tend to think that the Constitution envisaged the runner-up opposition party, opposition, it has been FDC for a while now, NUP, to appoint or elect or nominate the leader of opposition.
What does the law say? Does it say you cherry pick or you elect?
No, what happens, Simon, and when Honorable Lumu was seeking leave, he seemed to tend to think that when they say his understanding of election, because even when he was seeking leave, he said every person is elected. I think he even said even the Pope is elected. Why don't we elect this particular person? Now, from the onset, if you are to take the extreme part of that view, it would mean that even possibly committee chairs should be elected. Because it would say, why would you be my chairperson of Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee when I didn't elect you? It would mean that the chief whip, that would be the extreme argument that
ordinarily,
yes.
The law says the leading opposition shall elect from amongst themselves a leader of opposition.
Yes.
Am I right on this?
Yes.
So, not the leading or the opposition leader shall pick or cherry pick.
Of course, Simon, I've advised you on this show before that you shouldn't read the law like a false prophet. When they say shall elect,
Shall.
the internal management is not designated in the law. The internal management of how they elect. Otherwise, if they had intended to, they would have gone ahead to designate how, whether people are nominated, how they should be nominated, and how they come to. So if they say shall elect, I don't want to give it a strict interpretation of saying people shall stand and compete in elections. I don't want to give it that kind of interpretation.
What is an election?
An election is, they differ, elections differ. Elections would mean the internal management of any organization is up to that particular party, is up to that particular organization. So, in fact, if, of course, we both have the disadvantage of not having a draft bill shared by Mr. Lumo, and of course, we are relying on the utterances. If I'm to go by the utterances, even yesterday, he seemed even to widen it, and I would imagine that he even would want to touch other laws, because he talked about the speaker, the deputy speaker, that he should be coming from the opposition. Those are some of the amendments he has in mind, and it seemed to broaden, and it may not even be limited to the Administration of Parliament Act that he intends to amend. But most importantly, Simon, many times when you are seeking an amendment in the law, the first issue would be what defect have I seen that I would want to cure?
Yes.
And that would be the first question, that what problems have we seen with the status quo?
He's looking for participation and consensus from the opposition.
Well, that's why I was giving you the context that when the amendment of the Constitution and the Administration of Parliament Act on parties didn't envisage that indeed the different parties that have been elected on opposition ticket shall be agree to their leader. It didn't do so. It envisaged a situation where we have a majority party and then the runner-up, which is forming the opposition.
So are you comfortable,
That's my reading
are you
of the
comfortable
law.
with the status quo where, on the whims of the principle, someone becomes
Of
the
course,
leader
it
of
would
opposition?
be narrowing the discussion if you narrow it down to principle, Simon. I know you cannot get your head out of this.
Okay.
But we've had FDC as the leading opposition party since 2006.
Yes,
and I have not had a problem with it. In fact, for me, I would wish to widen the debate to say that the larger picture would be, how do we deal with a run-up presidential candidate who possibly has garnered a lot of support and he's an opposition leader outside parliament? Possibly that is a debate you can have at some point in time. Because before NUP, there was Dr. Kizza Besigye. And there was some bit of friction at some point with the leadership in parliament and so on and so forth. So it would be narrow. In fact, it would be so narrow to legislate because of the principle, like you want to call it. So for me, I would rather widen the debate and instead of looking at the status quo.
Given the sentiments,
if you are,
the sentiments that are coming from the National Unity Platform point to a fact that perhaps Lumu is having personal vendetta with the current leader of opposition, that whom he wants ousted, or the manner of election changed.
Of course, for starters, the law wouldn't act retrospectively. Even if Lumu was to go through with the bill, it wouldn't affect the current leader of opposition, unless we've seen the 11th Parliament to amend the law as and when they wish. But the intention is, you wouldn't even, those people who would have such argument, they would be having some bigger reasons if you look at the context. Because like I've said, what has been the problem? When FDC, the biggest opposition party, has been nominating, and Honorable Medad said they attempted, at some point, it would seek, I have seen Honorable Assembly say that it used to seek consensus. Honorable Mugisha Muntu nominated some people. Even the current shadow cabinet has some people from different parties. However, even if they didn't have people from the other opposition parties, it wouldn't be unlawful.
Honorable Medad, what's problematic about the current status?
I think you're misdirecting the debate. Number one, the law as it is the way it is.
Is it problematic?
I mean, that's why there is this debate.
No, in your opinion, do you find it problematic?
You know, you're fixing me where you want me. I have told you I have found a problem with it before. That's why I have attempted to amend it. Number two, I don't know if you read the comments I read attributed to Dr. Kizza Besigye when he said Honorable Segona attempted to bring this amendment Now that his party is the one in charge, he's comfortable. Again, that is misdirecting the debate. First of all, we should not even be discussing the law in light of what it is. Why? It is what it is. That's why somebody is moving to amend it. We should be looking.
Do you share his concern?
No, he has concerns. The concerns are legitimate. What we need to do is to look at the political environment as it is. And that's why I told you this is a contest between law, politics, and ego, fused with frustration. You see, when the Honorable Right Honorable law, politics, ego, fused with frustration.
Frustration.
Yes.
So,
because when the Honorable...
where is the politics?
It is actually entirely political. You see, when Honorable Winnie Kiza was appointed, I saw some people saying, misrepresenting me, that I opposed Professor Genga Latigo. For starters, I have never served under Professor Latigo, because Professor Latigo was LOP in the 8th Parliament. I was not a member. When the Honorable Winnie Kiza was removed from the leadership of Parliament, of opposition in Parliament, and Right Honorable Betta Awolo Chany was proposed, our argument with a few colleagues was that Honorable Awolo Chany is a mother. And the NRM celebrated, saying, because she's a mother, and you know throughout her tenure, she was saying, no, let's build the consensus.
Dear son.
No, let's not do that. Now, the kind of politics we were doing was different from that. That's when I said, no, we need to amend the law. Because Honorable Awolo Chany would be a good leader, but not under Museveni. Because Museveni is a leader who operates by fire and must be treated with fire. Those were my arguments. When I lost the debate, I wanted to go to court. The Honorable Lord Mayor, Erias Lukwago, called me and said, no, you don't need to do that. Since your argument in principle is only that the Honorable Awolo Chany is soft, just go and embolden her. Give her strength. And indeed, Right Honorable Betta Awolo Chany called me and said, my son, your argument is only that I'm soft. Now I need that hard beat, that hard component. Let that be you. You're going to be my justice minister. I said, no, I'm not. He said, you're my justice minister. You're taking it. And then I said, okay, we shall work. And she gave us that space to give the component that we thought she did not have, the one of being the fighters, as we refer to ourselves. Why I told you that we are missing the debate? Number one, at the end of the day, it is going to be Museveni, the winner. The way we handle it, or we are already handling it, is leaving Museveni laughing. When I proposed that law, I only received bashing from one person who said it was sponsored by NRM. And I'm sure that person lost the debate when NRM ganged up with FDC against me. I did not receive the kind of insults Lumu is receiving today. To me, it is wrong to take the debate that way. The right thing would be is for the leadership.
Yeah, but look, they are questioning the context, the timing, the spirit, and the person.
It is all fine. You see, in leadership, you must accommodate all manner of people, even those that may not address themselves to the political environment, even those that address themselves to the political environment but do so differently. It is your duty. The first thing would be is to say, let's listen to the Honorable Lumu in our closed door meeting. as opposition, probably leader of the opposition and Honorable Lumu. He could call a few other people and say, what exactly is the problem so we can deal with it?
Yeah, but you realize Lumu was equally imprudent in tabling this matter before consulting the opposition.
No doubt. I am not here to defend Honorable Lumu. By the way, even me, I did not do wide consultations. I have told you, this is fused with frustration. Somebody tells you, I'm frustrated. As to whether that person is frustrated or not is a matter that you've got to deal with, and that's what we call leadership. That's number one. Number two, don't even argue with a member who is exercising his legislative rights. Call him and understand where he's coming from. Then, if you fail to agree at that level, move to the next level, involve other people. In this case, it is difficult to say you're going to involve his party because officially his party is in alliance with government. Lumu is only a dissenting member of that party. He says, no, I'm not allying with Museveni. And a few others, Dr. Baiga and quite a number of other people, Kayondo and so on and so forth. That's number one. Before you let it escalate, I would only appeal to my colleagues, don't allow this to escalate.
But it's already degenerated into personal...
Don't take it further than that.
Okay, how do you examine the notion that this is targeting Senyonyi?
I don't know. I've not read the bill. Whether it is targeting him or not, we have been targeted before. If you're a leader, you must develop that thick skin. People will target you with or without justification. What did Mpuga tell you? He said, I have been abused, I have been this, I have been that, and that. As a leader, you must live up to that. I mean, who is not abusing Kyagulanyi today? Who is not abusing the Katikkiro of Buganda? Haven't people even insulted the Kabaka of Buganda, of all people? So I have said before, and I continue to say, one, I belong to the party in opposition, the National Unity Platform. I am happy that we are leading the opposition. If there are questions as to how we are leading the opposition and how we should lead the opposition, we've got to listen, understand the context. If somebody brings a mechanism, first of all, supposing we don't defeat him the way I was defeated, I mean, probably if the NRM has changed, because that time the NRM wanted a soft person. And I was saying, no, we do not want a soft person. And today, the NRM does not have a soft person. Joel is not a soft person. So probably they may want him out. Who is the net loser at the end of the day? Democracy is the loser. Okay? That's number one. Number two, supposing we can improve it. Supposing he brings the bill and we say, no, we can improve it like this, like this, like that. For me, one thing that I do not like about the tone of the debate is naming. I mean, we call it name calling. Now he's
Traitor.
He's a traitor. Yalide. It is as if other people are not eating, they're starving. You know, I don't like the idea that even those that have nothing to contribute can find a way or room to contribute in terms and form of insults.
Well, given the toxicity that has greeted the bill, ab initio, even before reading
the proposal,
it's
the proposal, not a bill.
The
There is
proposal,
no bill.
yes. The proposal. Do you imagine there can be room for dialogue on this very subject? Or the NUP, the National Unity Platform, appears closed on it and decisive already?
Well, Honorable Medad says when he brought his attempt, he was abused by one person. So the only difference is that the scale of abusers has grown. But yes, of course, if the bill is to go through legislative processes, there is always room for discussion.
Yeah, but the leadership has already expressed their distaste for it.
Well, largely because of the very reasons that possibly there would have been even better consultations, and I'm not saying that he had an obligation to do so because he has a legislative mandate, but given that he's also purposing to seek consensus, better consensus among opposition, and there are not many things we can copy from NRM, but I just learned that if a private member of NRM wants to bring a bill, he has to share it with the caucus prior. I saw the chief whip trying to give that kind of guidance. So maybe it would also have been prudent, and I'm just saying prudence is not a legality or mandatory, that he should have shared his proposals, and that way you seek better consultations. Because even like I've said, what he said in Gulu, it was perceived, because they are oral statements without a prior draft, it was perceived as if he wanted to bring a proposal that even a member of JEMA, which has one member of parliament, can become a leader of opposition. That's how it was perceived. They are saying that let the leader of opposition be elected from among the number of opposition MPs, given these utterances.
So it was distorted in packaging.
It was distorted in packaging partly because maybe of the haphazard nature. I don't know whether he had it, they had the intention of bringing it and he had to wait for Gulu.
Okay, in the subsequent addresses.
The subsequent addresses, yes.
Does he seem to amend?
Yes, he seems to go away from that position. He seems to go away from that position, and it's going to more to the Honorable Medad earlier proposal of the leading party bringing amongst its number, maybe propose 3 and we elect from the same party. Of course, personally, I would also have a problem with that, because if you are to set a secondary requirement to say, for instance, that a wall is soft, I'm giving an example, but he or she is a member of parliament, we know that even electing of a speaker, every MP is eligible, as long as you have senior 6, possibly 20 years old, and you elected member of parliament, you're eligible to be a speaker. So why would you put a secondary gauge for who becomes a leader of opposition? Secondly, where does this leave multi-party politics? Because multi-party presupposes that your party has a degree of control over you. That has even received some judicial clause in Uganda in the Supreme Court case of the Sechikobos and Honorable Nsereko Tinkasimire when they were being evicted from the NRM. And court said, no, it's national interest, the law first, then your party, and then your individual interests. So where does that leave the degree of control over, and that's why we say that it would be narrow to look at the debate as NUP versus them, because tomorrow it will be another party.
Today you are the majority, the leading opposition,
and they would wish to be in government.
Tomorrow, if it's a bad law, if it's a bad law, I would be happy to make it for NRM, which is the next opposition.
Well, tomorrow you might be the minority opposition. Would you subscribe to the manner in which a leader of opposition is picked today, not elected?
How does a party become a majority? Because it has had more
numerical strength.
More people have voted for their MPs in parliament. You don't come a majority or minority by default or by some bit of cherry picking. So we should also respect that, and that's why I said in the onset that I think our lawmakers intended to have. They borrowed some practices.
No, if I can rephrase my question, is the current precedent fine with you?
I have no
where
problem.
Someone just wakes up and says you.
Well, that is what multipartism presupposes. Because, like I've said,
I think again,
what does the law say?
Again, don't decontextualize it. It is okay first to the extent that is what the law puts in place.
What does the law say?
You see, the law talks about election, and like George said earlier, we do not want even to go into the definition of what election means and the internal processes. When you look at the Constitution, the Political Parties and Organizations Act and other Organizations Act, the requirement is for democratic practices and principles to have internal democracy within yourselves. 2 members met me yesterday, and when they said, no, for us, we want to go to court, I think I mentioned it earlier. And I said, don't go to court, because when you go to court, first of all, you will have an interpretation of the law. But let's apply the Rotary 4-way test. One of the tests is that, will it build goodwill and friendships? Is it fair to all concerned? Let's not delve much into the law today, because the law today is what it is. That's why somebody who is disenchanted wants to change it. Number two, there is no statutory definition of multipartism. If anything, multipartism could mean that you give space to all parties. For example,
I beg we continue from there immediately after the break. The big question remains, what are the unanswered questions as the Lumu proposal continues to raise a lot of dust? Good morning. Well, we are still examining the underlying issues in the Lumu proposal that seeks an amendment in the way the leader of opposition is elected in parliament, arguing that there is need for consensus from across the board, unlike the current tradition where a leader of opposition is picked on the whims of the principal and just a few others. But well, yesterday, previously, we've heard from the leader of opposition, and he was our guest here yesterday. We also heard from Honorable Lumu, who says he will go every mile to ensure that this proposal sees the light of the day, turns into a bill which will eventually be enacted as law. But what is at stake is the big issue that we need to examine. Perhaps you need to take a listen to some of the views. The leader of opposition spoke to the nation in the address at Kavule, where he said there seems to be some sinister move. People who are being used to frustrate the National Unity Platform. Take a listen.
Yesterday, I saw on the news one of our colleagues, the Honorable Sechikubo, was raising an important matter because we have been dealing with a censorship motion for some thieves in Parliament. And the Speaker said, don't bring your manyanga here. Here we are dealing with issues of northern Uganda. That manyanga of yours, that nonsense of yours, is to be handled in Kampala, in that house of yours in Kampala. That's where you deal with your manyanga. Interestingly, today, I saw her entertaining some manyanga. Some of our colleagues clearly being used by the Speaker and the NRM. They are mooting a motion saying, now we want the leader of the opposition to be elected by the entire Parliament, by the entire opposition. We have never been afraid of any democratic process, as you know. But clearly, this is because of the pressure that as a team we have been exerting and that we continue to exert. And we shall...
Well, very interesting. Yes, you were winding up.
Yes, I think my view is, I think, and I saw the law, I agree, that at NUP we have never feared going through any democratic process. Democratic process meaning you go to a free and fair election. We have defeated Museveni before in this country. We can still defeat him in Parliament. But are you sure of the environment and therefore say you're going to go and defeat him? Number two, Voltaire said, you know, he's one of my great philosophers, I disapprove of what you say, but I shall defend to death your right to say it. Even when you disagree with a member called Honorable Richard Lumu, you must fight for his space to legislate. One of the things that have bedeviled our society is electing people to Parliament who cannot legislate. I would rather have somebody who brings his bill in whichever form than we shred it, which we have done before. If you looked at the Public Order Management Act in its original form, the way it was brought, how we shredded it to get it to a level where we passed it in Parliament, and how we continued shredding it in court to make it what it is today, that Museveni and his forces can only use impunity, but not that law, to stop us from moving. For me, I support democratic legislative processes. I would not want to see a situation where the entire opposition is free to field a lead of opposition. But it is possible if it is what the law says. It would not be the best. So how do you arrest that? You arrest it by talking. If Museveni is using someone to do evil, assuming that's true, you use that person to facilitate democracy. After all, he's one of you. Call Richard Drummond and say, what are your proposals? Can we look at them? I'll give you an example. People turned down. One day when we were in Parliament, the Right Honorable Nandalama Fabi fired us, all of us from DP in his shadow cabinet, on the floor. And the following morning, I went with my file as his justice minister and said, sir, I was not around yesterday, but I saw on TV that you fired us. Here is my file. Should I hand it over to you pending my replacement, or I wait for the replacement? He said, no. For you, I did not fire you. Said, the other one, I did not fire him. Why? Because subsequently, people talked to him, and he listened. That's number one. Even the Right Honorable Joel Senyonyi, I understand, in cabinet, had toned down. Until somebody again in cabinet said, no, we passed a resolution. We resolved here. You can't, I mean, it will look ugly. The solution would lie in one thing, called opposition caucus. In which case, opposition caucus would overrule you as cabinet. Why we remained bound, some of us, is because our cabinet decided.
Well,
wait, we should have looked at the political ramifications beyond money, first and foremost. We are now in pieces. It is time for us to call and talk to our brothers from Greater North, but also the entire opposition, and demonstrate to them that actually nobody is against you. These were our views. Maybe we had lapses in not convening.
So you agree there are
caucus.
gaps?
No, yeah, there are gaps. And we can plug them up. We can discuss.
Very interesting. I'm looking at a scenario where the Lumu proposal makes it to the end and then passes as an act. For now, it appears doomed, given the sentiment that is overriding at the moment. But what if it makes it?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that we've seen either haphazard or targeted, whatever you call it. First of all, yes, it's a possibility. Because like I've mentioned, with the greatest of respect to Honorable Medad, who is a member of that 11th Parliament, we've seen some ugly scenarios in this Parliament. We saw how Namuganza was thrown out. We saw how Zake was thrown out. In fact, the Justice of the Constitutional Court said what was so urgent that you couldn't even wait for your boss for you to preside over a matter, which is, and we've seen other issues in the past. So what would happen? Of course, now we're talking about Lumu proposals.
I thought the two scenarios of Namuganza and Honorable Zake are different. Indeed, Namuganza lost hers. Okay. Zake was, yes, it was different from Namuganza. Not because Zake is from my party. Or
well, the key issue in the key scenario is that for the first time, Parliament was censuring someone who, even on the floor of Parliament, said had personal issues with the person presiding.
Yeah.
At least the previous incidents of all censured ministers, they were totally different issues. Yeah. For the first time, the censured person had issues of bias with the presiding speaker.
Are you holding on to the view that this proposal is targeting Senyonyi?
Like I've earlier mentioned, there is, if you look at the broader context, you wouldn't put it so far away from that. The broader context is this, that one, we've had, I think for the first time since we went into multipartism, almost an antagonistic relationship between the leader of opposition and the speaker. I was reading Honorable Ogenga Latigo's interview, and he was saying in 2006, every time we had a very sticky issue, the speaker would call me and Honorable Sibambi and we would retreat. I think in the 11th Parliament, and especially right now, we don't have that kind of retreat, where we have maybe the three people retreating. And of course, I was recently even heard the head of government business also lamenting about the same thing, saying, how comes I've never been called for a parliamentary commission meeting? That is for her to sort. So a person who had that
but there are minutes when she has been a member.
Well, I read an interview and she said it publicly. So the issue is that you cannot divorce the politics out of it, and even you cannot divorce the perceptions. Sometimes perceptions may be just unreal.
Okay,
but the perception, because of...
Do you see footprints of AAA in this proposal?
Without doubt, because and why I was trying to earlier to bring the analogy of Honorable Namuganza, I know that MPs were mobilized to say that come and see, come and vote. I think the vote took place on a Monday. That come and, where are you? The speaker has to see you. In Uganda, they call it Okuirawo Mobili. The speaker has to see you that you're fighting for, because it had been pitted as the war of Namuganza and the speaker. It had lost the same issues. And similar with the same issues of Zake, that the Katuntu committee had recommended something different. The floor changed, even suspended the rules to evict him out.
So in this case, Lumu comes off as a pawn? As
a Trojan horse for the interests that have, because of the context and I think the environment that Honorable Mede talked about, that it comes at a time when we have a very frosty relationship.
Who benefits from this attitude, where you look at a legislator playing his legislative role as a pawn?
Well, one, I'll start by who doesn't benefit. Democracy dies. Because like I say, this, it undermines the spirit. And then two, who benefits? Of course, the biggest antagonist to democracy is Mr. Museveni.
But there is also an irony here, that the party that is vouching for democratic principles is very, very averse to democratic practices.
Well, it depends on what you call averse, Simon. You've just played a clip of Joel saying that we are not afraid of...
No, but the sentiment points to...
Well, it depends on...
We are comfortable with this.
It comes down to your definition of democracy. Are you saying that the law is undemocratic as it is now? Are you saying that? Because the law, it is as it is. A member has legitimate concerns, irrespective of the motivations. He has every lawful right to bring that. The party has every legitimate right to respond, or whoever member of the party, or even other members. I've had other members of not being NUP, I've seen them on NBS, have expressing sentiments about it. And I don't want to agree with you that what Lumu is bringing is democratic and what is in place is undemocratic. I don't want to agree with that.
Lumu is playing within his democratic right.
Certainly, he is a member of parliament.
And the democratic institution called National Interplatform is very, very hostile.
It is also playing its democratic right of expression. No, I think, Simon, one thing we need to understand, one, is processes are as important as the substance. That's number one. Number two is to invite people to calm down, cool down. Whether he's right or wrong, and I believe he's right, to bring a law that he conceives and perceives as democratic. I may agree with him or not, maybe depending on the text when he eventually shares with us. Number two, if the law is to the effect that even the Honorable Asumani Basalirwa, who is a lone MP in his party, wants to contest for the leadership of the opposition, and the law has changed, as NUP, we shall defeat him, or we may defeat him. The irony is where he convinces more members from the opposition and they vote for him. Now, will that give us stability? Because you asked a question, a theoretical one. Supposing the Lumu bill makes it, takes the day at the end of the day, it will pass, it will be the law. But will it give us more stability than we have today?
Okay.
No.
For now,
so the
has
best
it thrown
thing,
you into disarray?
It has. You cannot deny that. It's a fact. That's why I'm calling upon colleagues, members, calm down. Can we retreat as opposition and discuss it internally? Let me end with this. In our campus days, I think it was 2000, 2001, when Asuman Basalirwa was the Guild president, there was a move to censure Asuman. Now, people were mobilizing. He came to my room. We sat. We had technical objections to the censure. Both of us were young lawyers, and you know how young lawyers can be. I asked Asuman, do you think those members of the GRC are lawyers and they will understand these technical objections? Because they are the judges at the end of the day. I said, no. Let's just go, be humble, and we defeat this motion, the censure motion. My final
Without technical jargon.
My appeal today is it pays now to be humble and talk to each other. Let's go to our meeting point where we used to meet and talk as opposition. The irony, the biggest irony, by the way, in this, is that if it is to be a legislation, it is a legislation that is voted to by the entire House. Even when you're talking about a vote to be conducted by only the opposition, the legislation is by the entire House.
Well, thank you very much. Council Judge, we need to get out of here, but how far can NUP go in opposing this proposal and casting Lumu as a betrayer?
Of course, it's like I earlier mentioned, we don't have the benefit of seeing. Lumu has only gone as far as making public utterances. He hasn't laid anything on the table. And for you to...
But you're shooting him already. You're shooting him down already.
Well, on the basis of, if a person makes public utterances, Simon, I can respond to you on your public, on what you've said orally. But like I've said, if he goes ahead and through a process where he will bring possibly a draft, this can be discussed. This can go through all the contestations, and we can look at the merits. My problem, though, is whether we can still have a sober debate amidst the already charged environment, whether we can look at any proposals with sober minds.
Then do not contribute to inflaming the same environment.
But the internal democracy of NUP is now being tested, right?
Well, what do you mean internal democracy? Is Ndomo a member of NUP?
No.
You want internal democracy being contested?
You don't want to subject yourselves to an election?
That is your opinion. You've just played the clip of Joe saying, but NUP has, every member of parliament has gone through an election. No, is there a member of NUP who has not gone through an election?
For this process to take shape in its real form?
Well, like I've mentioned, Simon, and I repeat it to you.
And I think, just with your permission, Simon, you're being unfair to NUP. The leader of the opposition in parliament has told you, we are ready for an election.
An internal election?
Even if it is external.
Gentlemen, I must really thank you very much. It's been a fantastic discussion this morning with two lawyers, both from NUP, incidentally.
But you represented DP ably well.
Good morning.
You did your job.
Place right now, actually, around Makerere University. So we're going to cross over there, and I have to say goodbye. May the Lord bless you, keep you, make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Goodbye, and God bless.
Established in 1988, first as a program under the Department of Literature, the department has not only maintained its foundational commitment to excellence, but has also significantly expanded in its capacity for research and graduate training in journalism, media, and communication. It has been inspiring to witness this growth, to see the department spread its influence not only in Uganda, but also in the region and the continent. Honorable Minister, I'm proud to inform you that the department is a UNESCO Center of Excellence in Journalism training in Africa. I believe that deserves a hand clap. On behalf of the School of Languages, Literature and Communication, I congratulate the department for the significant milestones you have accomplished. We are confident that with your continued efforts and our collective support as a community, you will build even further on this foundation and ensure that Makerere University remains at the forefront of media and communication training and scholarship. Ladies and gentlemen, as we embark on today's discussions, let our goal be to strengthen our dedication to the truth and accuracy in journalism, media, and communication by enhancing our understanding and application of artificial intelligence and social networks in combating misinformation. May this convention be a catalyst for new ideas, practical solutions, and a renewed commitment to the excellence in this critical sector. As I end, I sincerely thank the organizations that have supported the department on organizing this year's annual media conventions. I will not repeat them here because the head of department has mentioned all of them. However, in a special way, we thank UCC for partnering with us at Makerere University to bring this important discussion on misinformation in the digital era to the forefront of public discourse. I thank you. Allow me to use this opportunity to invite my boss and friend, the Principal, College of Humanities and Social Sciences, Professor Helen Mkabala. You're welcome.
It is my great honor and pleasure to stand before you this morning with a lot of joy and gratitude. Allow me to stand on the existing protocol already mentioned, but in a very special way recognize all the leadership from CHUS, deans, heads of department, and more specifically the Department of Journalism and Communication, and the Dean, School of Languages. They are the reason as to why we are here. I also want to recognize principals present, Principal Konas. Thank you for standing with us. The Vice Chancellor, the Executive Director. It is indeed an honor to see the confidence that the Uganda Communications Commission has in Makerere University. We don't take this for granted. This celebration could have been in Kololo, but who are we that you bring it to Makerere University? It's a clear indicator of the resolute for you to contribute to a clear environment. As we gather here today, friends, we are not only coming together to celebrate a day. We are coming together with a clarion call to duty, the duty of not only ethics, but responsibility in as far as our use of artificial intelligence is concerned. I really want to thank all organizers for thinking about this critical theme at this critical time. We know that as we approach 2026, Do we all know what is happening in 2026? We don't, do we? So I don't actually have people who are thinking of standing to go to parliament or become the presidents of this country. I'll ask again, do we know what's happening in 2026? Okay, thank you very much. So as we come across the environment which we are in preparing for 2026, we also know that the dangers of deepfakes are very actual. And if we do not tackle this right now, we can be headed for disaster. The beauty about artificial intelligence, as you know, is that we do have both the positives and the negatives. And our gathering here this morning and through the entire day, we shall be discussing more about responsible use of artificial intelligence, how we tackle the deepfakes, how we tackle the misinformation. And it is our sincere hope that this is not only another day, this is not only another celebration, but it is a starting point to candid conversations on our responsibilities as we use the tools in our hands. Artificial intelligence on its own has no problem. We are the ones to decide how to use it. And the conversations today are aimed at taking us through the needs, the responsibility, the ethics, the integrity that we must exercise as individuals in order to tackle the risks of unregulated AI. Friends, I'm very excited that I come in at a time when the Department of Journalism and Communication has decided to get wings, not to fly out, but the wings to grow. We know, and it's a fact, that this department has contributed tremendously to the conversations of media in this country. We also know that all the people we do celebrate today in the media industry have had a footing in this university, but most especially in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. As a college, it's an exciting day, and I want to emphasize that the need for the public good, the need to empower communities, is very actual as far as the college and the school, more so the department, is concerned. We are very proud of you, Department of Journalism. We are very proud of you, School of Languages, Literature and Communication. These ambitious initiatives that you bring on board are really taking not only the department, but also the college to greater heights. As a college, we congratulate you upon these very remarkable achievements that you have not only made today or that we celebrate today, but over the years. It may benefit us to know that the celebration today started over 20 years ago. I think this is the 26th. So we don't take it for granted that you have remained consistent in celebrating the annual media convention. And we do thank you so much for remaining consistent. You mentioned, and I'll re-emphasize, on the proposal to become a school. In the College of Humanities, we do believe in growth. And Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, I want to re-echo the words of the head of department. May your eye be kind as you look into the matters of the school, but also the kind of support that we need in order to revive and bring to life our FM and television. Allow me at this point to thank the Uganda Communications Commission. Thank you so much. We do appreciate all the support that you have given us. And we can only continue to ask for more until we realize it. I want to assure you that as a college, The campus FM and the television are very dear to us because it will give us another voice in this university. You may be aware that this college is the soul of this university. Without it, we have no university. So, when the campus FM, I'm not sure if the Vice Chancellor agreed, but I saw him nodding in affirmative. So the television and the campus FM will help us give a voice to our students. We do have students that are determined and they will contribute to the conversations in this country. And as a college, we do firmly stand behind all these endeavors and we shall continue to offer our support in all the collaborations wherever and whenever need arises. I thank you very much and I welcome you once again and wish you a very fruitful day with very beautiful conversations as we all learn how to take responsibility, integrity, and ethics as we communicate using the tools in our hands. I thank you. I'll steal the words of the Dean and also say I would like to invite my friend, the University Secretary, who is here to represent the Vice Chancellor. You are very welcome. Please come and address the audience.
Thank you very much, Principal Chus. I told the head of department and the dean when I was coming in here that the stage is quite intimidating. Now reaching on the podium, it even becomes more intimidating. You people who are not here, there is some very interesting display of what is happening in this room here. The other thing I also told the head of department yesterday and this morning is how unfortunate we have been that this extremely important meeting takes place in the university at a time when our Vice Chancellor is away on other equally important university commitments and he misses to participate in this dialogue. Now for me, it's a bit ambiguous when I say it's unfortunate because I get the opportunity to be invited and to also represent him. So let me start by delivering the apologies of Professor Barnabas Nawangwe, our Vice Chancellor, who is out of the country and has not been able to join us today. And let me also follow in the footsteps of my colleagues who have already been here to stand on the protocol they outlined, but most especially to welcome our partners from the Uganda Communications Commission and to thank the leadership of CHUS, the School of Languages, and the Department of Journalism for this initiative. On behalf of the Vice Chancellor and the Makerere University Management, I extend a warm welcome to all of you to this year's annual media convention. But it's also our extreme pleasure as Makerere University that this time we are collaborating with the UCC to organize this important dialogue. We thank you, UCC, for your generous support, and in the same spirit we thank all the partners that have generously contributed in several ways towards the success we see here today. Now, I believe that today we have a very unique platform to deliberate on a very timely topic, talking about AI, social networks, and misinformation. But as I told you, Dean, head of department yesterday, I would also like us to specifically add the topic of harmful content, especially because these platforms are having a very important impact on our lives. But I'm also happy that rather than dwelling solely on the perceived threats of these platforms, social media, AI, we have chosen to focus on harnessing the potential of these spaces for positive change, which I believe is a great opportunity for us as Makerere University to contribute to the public discourse on AI, social networks, and I want to add another word, ethical development, and we'll be talking about that shortly. But as we embark, I think I'll request the audience to please stand up as we welcome the Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you're most welcome to Makerere University. And the Honorable Minister, as you were arriving, I was humbly offering a message on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Nawangwe, who is out of the country and for that reason has not been here with us. And I had reached somewhere where I was saying that today we talk a lot about technology and the potential technology presents to address the challenges we face. But in doing so, we must be mindful that technology is a powerful tool, but it is not a panacea for solving our challenges. The duty will always remain with us, especially those of us in public office, in addressing the challenges presented also by technology. The things we are talking about here, disinformation, misinformation, harmful content. Indeed, AI and social networks can be a tool of getting there, but the extent to which we are able to leverage them depends on us and depends on what we do. So how we wield this tool matters on whether we get good out of it, whether we get nothing out of it, or whether we completely destroy our society. So as public officials, and I want to emphasize this because UCC is here, we are responsible for recognizing the limitations of these tools and making sure that we actively address them through the actions we take in executing our mandate. Let me try to illustrate this point by looking a bit at our media landscape. Whether you look at traditional media, the newspaper you hold in the morning, or the radio you tune to, or the TV, or if you look at social media, we must be able to see media as a public good. Now, in economic terms, if we go on the side of economics, we know that public goods must exhibit two characteristics. Number one is non-excludability, and number two is non-livery. If I put this in some simple terms, it means every one of us should be able to enjoy unfettered access to the media. The second does not diminish what is available for that good for another person to consume. So how much I stay on TikTok or Instagram does not limit what TikTok or Instagram is available for another person to enjoy. So because of this nature, these goods become available and impact all of us. But most importantly, a true public good must contribute to the well-being of society at large. So now let's move those principles to our media landscape, which is based on the internet, which is based on AI, and which is also based on social networks. What you see there raises very fundamental concern. Take an example of TikTok, Instagram. You go in there, you find a lot of toxic content, pornographic materials, insults, abusive language, things that do not align entirely with the Ugandan society as we know it, which do not align in any way with the aspirations of the Ugandan society today, whether you look at our Vision 2040 or the National Development Plan, or even here locally in Makerere, our strategic plan. So while these platforms are popular, we must recognize that they harbor some harmful content, which requires our urgent attention to address. Now, we have a dilemma here. Should we think of relying entirely on AI and social networks to deal with this situation? I would say perhaps not. Sometimes the solution lies in straightforward actions that we must take. For example, restricting the platforms that perpetuate this harmful content. I commend again the presence of UCC here. What is happening on some of these platforms does not need us to come to Makerere University for an intervention to be taken. You know, these days the Minister of Education is telling us, you buy iPads and phones and internet, there is e-learning. So our children, as young as primary education, have access to these gadgets. But if you see the things which just pop up, however active you are as a parent, you do not have the capacity to monitor and regulate the things our children are accessing on these platforms. And some of the content is simply destroying the current and future generations. I believe just by a click of a button somewhere, UCC can solve this problem. And we must do it now. I have seen things which have been able to be stopped in this country, and I know that some of these challenges can still be addressed with. So I also appreciate that there are counter-arguments to this proposition. For example, many people would argue that a good number of young Ugandans are deriving income from these platforms. There is this thing called today content. You generate content, you get many likes and many views, and TikTok and YouTube and everything pays you. But if we go back to the knowledge of public goods, there is also a principle of us having to balance private interest versus public benefit. Why should somebody make money by abusing another? Why should someone make money by promoting pornographic content which destroys our society? And it is okay, because we think these people are becoming stars and they are making a lot of money. So I believe that striking a balance between the interests of young people and maybe older people who have been innovative and are able to use these platforms to make an income and the public good can be challenging, but it is very, very necessary. And UCC's oversight role can play a very important function here in shaping the responsible use of technology, in balancing freedom and responsibility, which I know can be a delicate task, but is essential if Uganda is going to achieve a thriving digital society. So, as I conclude, I would like to recognize that technology cannot advance without robust institutional frameworks. And I'm talking about institutions from the lens of Douglas North, the written and unwritten rules of the game that shape our behavior. If we historicize the evolution of the Ugandan society, you will learn that we had institutional arrangements long before the colonial period. For example, we knew what can be said in public and what can't be said. We knew what could be done and what could not be done. And these institutional frameworks we had then, we are responsible for building the social order we enjoyed. Now today, because we are swallowed up in the concept of liberty and freedom, we are in anarchy, we are in chaos. Everybody says what they want, regardless of the harm of that information to the society. So, I want to argue that as we discuss how we can harness AI and social networks, we situate our debate in leveraging the media as a public good. The same way NEMA can go and destroy developments in a wetland is the same way UCC should go and destroy harmful content on social media, I want to argue. And I want to argue further that some of the things which are happening on these platforms are more dangerous than anything somebody is doing in a wetland can pose today. We can laugh about it, but I can tell you we are destroying a society. So UCC, welcome to Makerere. And we have here fantastic departments of journalism, of ICT. If you want to be supported to design some algorithms which can help you deal with this program, please contact us. I want to thank you once again. I want to welcome you to Makerere, and I look forward to enjoying the discussions that will follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, our Vice Chancellor, for those encouraging words. We would like to recognize a few more people who joined us, of course, starting with our guest of honor. You're most welcome, our guest of honor, Honorable Kyabanga Godfrey Baluku, the State Minister for National Guidance. We'd also like to recognize the presence of Madame Julian Mwehere, the Director, Industry Affairs and Content Development. Please stand up for recognition, and thank you for this partnership. We'd like to recognize the presence of Daniel Kalinachi, the General Manager, Editorial, Nation Media. Yes, we recognize the presence of Mr. Kenneth Kazoba, the Vice President, Star Times Uganda. Dr. Annette Kezabu, the In-Charge, Graduate Studies at Uganda Christian University. Thank you for joining us. Dr. George Rugalambi from the African Center for Media Excellence. Thank you for joining us. Stephen Mwanga, former President of the Public Relations Association of Uganda. Thank you. Lydia Mirembe, the Manager Corporate and Public Affairs at Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority. Thank you, Steve, for joining us. We have a small interruption. Our head of department, please, in very few minutes, about 5 or so, our head of department kept something that she needed the guest of honor to be aware of as she concludes it in very few minutes. Thank you.
Our guest of honor, Honorable Kyabanga Godfrey Baluku, the State Minister for National Guidance. You're very, very welcome to Makerere University, and specifically to the Department of Journalism and Communication. And thank you very much for allowing to officiate at this function. I already welcomed the rest of the visitors and recognized the number of them in the audience, but there was something very, very small that we wanted to perform here in your presence. And before I probably perform this function, I would like to call up all the teaching staff of the Department of Journalism and Communication to quickly line up in front here, very, very quickly, please, so we can save time. Mariam, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, as the department members get themselves ready, can I also kindly request our Honorable Minister, our guest of honor, our University Secretary who is representing the Vice Chancellor, and the ED of the Uganda Communications Commission to kindly join me here on the podium as I announce the next step. My principal and the dean also please appear for a moment. At this moment, as the team joins the podium, ladies and gentlemen, as you have been told, this department has existed as a program, first of all, since 1988, and later as a department in 1998, starting 1998. At this moment, we want to recognize one of our longest serving members of department, who is ending his tour of duty at Makerere University. He's retiring this month. And the members of the department decided to recognize him this morning to show our appreciation for his contribution to the Department of Journalism and Communication. Dr. Adolf Mbaini has been working Dr. Adolf Mbaine has worked at the Department of Journalism and Communication since 1996, and he's been with us for 28 years. Adolf, please make your way to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, the Department of Journalism and Communication would like to recognize the contribution of Dr. Adolf Mbaine to the department. And before I pass on this plaque to our Honorable Minister to pass it on to Adolf, I wanted to read it out to the audience. With our greatest appreciation, we proudly honor an exceptional colleague, Dr. Adolf Mbaine, for 28 years of dedicated service to your alma mater, Makerere University, at the Department of Journalism and Communication between 1996 and 2004. You have not only been a colleague, but a friend, a mentor, and a force of positive energy. We have been blessed to share in your numerous talents and have enjoyed your unmatchable sense of humor. Your resilience, dedication, hard work, and focus on growth have fueled our pursuit to transform from a department to a school of journalism, media, and communication. Thank you for choosing to stay with us and for impacting our lives. May the Lord continue to light your path. Congratulations on your retirement.
Hey, Honorable Minister, our University Secretary, the Executive Director, Uganda Communications Commission, fellow staff, the principal, our good friend, the dean, the School of Languages, Literature and Communication, and fellow colleagues, distinguished guests, our colleagues from UCU. I saw Professor Monica Chipita here, Dr. Kezabu is here as well, and several other people. This was a shock to my system, and so forgive me if I blabber a few lines, but I'm really grateful to the Department of Journalism and Communication and to Makerere University for giving me the opportunity to serve for 28 years and 5 months. I'll be retiring at the end of this month. I have made my small contribution. I'm proud about it. And I have left behind a very strong team. I have talked to a few people who said, now you are going, so what happens? How will things happen? I said, this is very disrespectful to the work that we have done here in the past 28 years, because I leave behind a very, very strong and able team. Currently headlined by Dr. Isha Nachiwara Sembatia, but with a very deep sense of hard work, commitment, and love for Makerere University and the industry that we serve. And so there is no problem. I think the department will grow stronger. And here is my wish. I had wished that before my retirement, this unit, the department, would already be transformed into the School of Journalism, Communication and Media. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure and confident that with the support of the Vice Chancellor and people like Mr. Yusuf Chiranda, who are in the commanding heights of this university, this school status will come sooner than later. I wish everything good to Makerere University and to the future School of Journalism, Communication and Media. I am retiring, but I'm not tired, so I'll continue my work in academia elsewhere. But this is to say thank you very much. I would also like to recognize my wife, Mrs. Joan Lee, who has been a very, very strong and influential support in all the work that I do both here and elsewhere. So thank you very much, and my pleasure. And thank you for the surprise. The Vice Chancellor, Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir, please come and invite the Honorable Minister to give his remarks. You could.
Honorable Minister, the moment we have been waiting for to get started is near. When we saw your face getting into this room, we knew the convention will get started shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my singular honor and distinguished privilege to welcome Honorable Godfrey Baluku, representing the Minister of ICT and National Guidance. Honorable Baluku is the State Minister, and we are very delighted to have him here at Makerere University. And now I would like to take the honor to invite him to open our convention. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, University Secretary, who is representing the Vice Chancellor, the ED of UCC, the Director of UCC, the heads of departments who are here. Let me stand on the protocol already established by the Vice Chancellor, because I may end up messing it up. I have not yet captured who is here, and therefore I respect everybody in their respective capacities. I'm Kabyanga Godfrey Baluku. I'm State Minister for Information, Communication Technology, and National Guidance, in charge of National Guidance. I'm very, very glad to be here, and I bring you greetings from my Minister, the Honorable Dr. Variu Musi MP, and my colleague, Honorable Joyce Serugwao. The Honorable Minister is not able to be here because he's accompanying the Vice President on state duty to China. And my colleague Minister, Honorable Serugwao, would have also loved to be here, but we divided roles. He has another function he's presiding over. I'm really very happy to be at Makerere University, my university. I was here from 1986 to 89, quite long. Some of you were not yet born, but we were here with Honorable Nyobi Tembo, and I think the Deputy Vice Chancellor Henry. He was in Lumumba, but me and Henry were in the Great Hall, Livingstone Hall. And we have a lot of precious memories. I don't know whether it is still as nice as it was those days, because for us we were even paid to be in school, so we enjoyed ourselves. And I'm happy that the university has even grown and has become even stronger, and we are all proud of Makerere University. I thank you very much for keeping it. I'm also very grateful to Uganda Communication Commission for sponsoring this very great convention, and I'm happy with Makerere for hosting it. And I think we are not in the wrong place. This is the place that should host such conventions, because it is the center of research. And the only way we can go over the hurdles and challenges of AI is to collaborate with Makerere University to put a lot more men in research and women. I think if we can do that, then we shall demystify every myth around AI. It's a great privilege, therefore, for me and the entire Ministry of Information, Communication Technology, and National Guidance to be here today to discuss one of the most significant challenges of our time, artificial intelligence, along with its benefits and challenges. This conference has aptly identified misinformation as a critical issue related to AI that we will address this morning. However, it is essential for the esteemed gathering of professionals, intellectuals, and academic leaders to reflect on the transformative power that AI holds over our society influencing everything from our daily lives to global communication. I found the University Secretary laboring to show how we are scared about misinformation. But me, from the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, I'm not scared. I am challenged, and therefore it will make me think harder. And AI is unstoppable. So don't get scared. You are in the right place. The center of excellence, the center of research. So all those hurdles you are thinking about, they will be overcome. These people you are seeing here are there to see that we overcome all these challenges of misinformation. Because misinformation is also what? Information. And it makes you think hard to see how you can mitigate. So don't get scared. We are in the right place. We shall overcome all what you are scared about. With this potential comes the ethical responsibility to use AI with the utmost care, particularly the need to disseminate accurate information. Misinformation is not a new phenomenon. Technology merely amplifies it. It amplifies its magnitude, speed, reach, and impact. Or AI presents a double-edged sword that can both combat and exacerbate misinformation. The only thing we have now, it moves faster. But misinformation has been there since creation. But now it can move very fast because of technology. On one hand, AI can be misused for amplification of misinformation. Though bots and or fake accounts, AI can promote misleading content and facilitate hacking or misconfiguring servers, communication networks, endpoints, social media accounts to generate deceptive content that spreads rapidly among unsuspecting audiences. Conversely, AI can be employed to analyze and filter information, helping us identify false narratives and promote factual content. As the sector ministry, we urge all stakeholders, government, policymakers, tech companies, academia, civil society, to collaborate in developing robust strategies to counter misinformation. We can leverage AI effectively in our efforts to combat misinformation. The government will support increased investment in research and education to equip our communities with the fundamental skills necessary to navigate an increasingly complex information landscape. Additionally, I appeal to the Communication Commission, the regulator of this sector, to adopt to the rapid technological advancement characteristic of AI. I was happy last week, the First Lady, Mama Janet, who is also Minister of Education and Sports, to announce that they will allow gadgets in schools. I think that was the best for me, because I don't see why we should restrict gadgets in what? In schools. We should only regulate the what? The use. But right now, to say gadgets shouldn't be allowed in schools, you are limiting the progress of the student. When I was here in Makerere many years ago, we used to crowd in University Hall. I think that was the biggest classroom at that time. And whoever came to university, somehow, somewhere, you would take economics. I don't know whether it is like that even now. But most of the courses, first year, you would take somewhat economics. And economics was the biggest class, and we would crowd there. But I'm happy now, you don't need to come and crowd at University Hall. You can even study in your room. or by Zoom. You can attend lectures even when you are in your home. And therefore, you can't limit gadgets in schools. Research. We used to crowd in the university library whenever they would give us an assignment. But now all the research are on gadgets. Even libraries now are all uploaded on these gadgets. I came back to study again, and this time I wouldn't go to, I never stepped in the university library because my library was on my what? On my gadget. So we are not going to avoid some of these things. UCC is taking computers to secondary schools. We now want to take them to primary schools so that teaching can be easy. So now how do you again limit gadgets in schools? What we need is to regulate content, just as the university secretary has said, and see which content can go on and which content shouldn't. And just as you have asked, I think we are going to up our game, because I was in Dubai recently with ED. There are some sites which you can't what? Access. And people are there, they are not complaining. Here, we also have some apps which we closed. People are complaining, but life is what? Is moving on. So I think what we are going to do is let gadgets go to schools, but we shall see as UCC, as a ministry, to regulate which content comes in the country. And that will be all. But also parents, you should also assure you lock those gadgets and see what your children can access and what they can't access. Though now, they are even brighter than us. You can even lock and they do what? They unlock, or they lock you out completely. What is important and what should be essential for this esteemed gathering is to reflect on, gathering to reflect on, is the establishment of ethical guidelines for AI development and development promoting transparency and accountability. This includes fostering a culture of responsible AI use and prioritizing the well-being of our citizens. Ultimately, AI is a tool, and like all tools, it requires users to possess the ethical instrument necessary to use it for the greater good to the, and not to the detriment of society. Education institutions such as Makerere University play a pivotal role in this endeavor by fostering interdisciplinary research and dialogue. You pave the way for innovative solutions to the challenges posed by AI and misinformation. I encourage academicians and researchers to delve deeper into these topics, exploring the intersections of technology, ethics, and communication. In conclusion, while the challenges possessed by AI and misinformation may seem daunting, they also present us with a unique opportunity to shape a better future. And I strongly believe, together, as even we are here, let us commit to harnessing the potential of AI, to create a more informed, educated, and resilient community. We are not going to avoid AI. It is there. We are going to get more misinformation, but we should be there to correct the information all the time. And therefore, let us all work together and see how we can put in place mitigations, how we can put in place roadblocks for people who create all that misinformation. But AI is very, very interesting. The other day, I wanted a speech, and I just told the AI I'm going to meet this audience. Can you write for me a speech? And AI wrote to me a what? A speech. I just customized a little, and my work was made what? Simple. So how do you tell me that I shouldn't love AI, I should be scared of AI? We should live with it, and we should ensure we use it correctly. And as a regulator, as a government in charge of regulation, we shall look at the limits and see how we can do it. Lastly, I would like to welcome my longtime colleague, Brigadier General Felix Kulaije. He was my chairman, Livingstone Hall. I've told them we are here 86 to 89. So Kulaije was my chairman of Livingstone Hall, and we enjoyed a lot together. A lot of things which we can't mention here. And we still have a lot of precious memories. I thank you very much, all of you, for coming, and I say all this for God and my country. I thank you very much. Now I declare the convention open.
Thank you very much, and go to the next session of this program, which will be the keynote speeches. Milton and Tim, give us a brief one. Thank you.
This is on but no faith wine. the earth and thrice and humble cry. As the Junker mai compare nere mai nisogni, as the osso lavecare in Canberra vastere bat, the brave my heart of plain tambotibo, instroi me as odibos felt horizon.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sorry, I interrupted you. I should have waited for the but thank you so much. I'm going to request Professor Nasanga to please come and introduce our first keynote speaker. And as you do that, we have in our midst a very interesting lady. Madame Diri Anika Grace is a sign language interpreter. She's a staff of UCC. Grace, we have 3 keywords at this convention. What is the sign language for artificial intelligence? Misinformation in Uganda. Thank you so much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All protocol is observed. This morning, I have the honor to introduce to you our first keynote speaker. This is a distinguished dignitary in our midst. Is not other than Honorable George William Nyombi Tembo. This is a man who wears many hats. He is an economist and a seasoned corporate executive with expertise in public service spanning more than 30 years. Honorable Tembo has in-depth knowledge and diverse background in ICT policy, public policy, and administration, as well as regulatory leadership in communication sector. He currently serves as the Executive Director of the Uganda Communications Commission. In the international ICT space, Honorable Nyombi Tembo is the chairman of the ITU Global Symposium for Regulators, GSR, for the period 2024-2025. And he's primarily responsible for promoting regulatory best practices and innovative approaches aligned with ITU's broader goals. Honorable Nyombi Tembo, for his education, holds a bachelor's degree in economics and social administration from nowhere else other than Makerere University. He holds a master's degree in development economics from Uganda Uganda Matters University. He holds a postgraduate diploma in project management from Bradford University in the UK. And he holds another diploma in financial management from the Uganda Management Institute. You can see he's what we call a learned man. He does not stop at diplomas. He also collects certificates. So he has certificates in ICT policy, public utility regulation, investment analysis, public-private partnership, railway transport and logistics. That is the dignitary before us who is going to give us a keynote on all these fronts and the hats he wears. I have the pleasure to invite Honorable George William Nyombi Tembo to come to the podium, please.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you, my sister, for the wonderful, amazing introduction. The Honorable Minister, Honorable Kabyanga Baluku, Minister of State for ICT and National Guidance, the Principal, the Dean, Heads of Department, the Vice Chancellor, sorry, my friend, my colleague, with whom we share the wonderful memories of Makerere, Brigadier General Felix Kraigje. We call him Chairman of Chairmen. When he was the Chairman of Livingstone, he was the Chairman of all of us chairmen at the campus. Colleagues in the media space, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at the topic today, at the theme today, harnessing artificial intelligence and social networks to combat misinformation, maybe we didn't put there, disinformation, it's quite a pregnant theme. And since we have many speakers, I'll try as much as I can to restrict myself to misinformation and disinformation. Obviously, because I know that's the other side, the negative side of the multiplier effect of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has a lot of wonderful business models that can be built around it, a lot of things that will help humanity, but the underside of it, the negative side of it, one of it is misinformation and disinformation. And my keynote address, I try as much as I can to restrict myself to that topic. So I'm both privileged and honored to address you here today on an issue that is urgent and has far-reaching implications. This issue affects every dimension of our lives, regardless of socioeconomic status and location, from the way we communicate to how we govern, from how our personal beliefs are shaped, right to our shared future as Ugandans. Today, We live in a world where information is literally at our fingertips. With a click of a computer mouse, or a swipe on the smartphone, or a shout into the screen, information immediately pops up in front of us. The digital revolution has connected us in incredible ways. It has given us access to information, knowledge, voices, and ideas from every part of the planet. Even those people who would not have given space to talk in society, on the social media, they have found space to talk. Nobody refuses them. You just need to have your smartphone, to have your data bundles. Even those who can't be talking in a family meeting, who can be allowed to talk in a small group, when they have their bundles and their smartphones, they have the opportunity to address the entire world, courtesy of the World Wide Web. Information has been, for that matter, democratized. It's more accessible than any service you may think of. That's a mathematical or arithmetical statement, but I think if you imagine any other service you can think of, clean water, electricity, transportation, insurance, talk of any service. There is no any service that has a reach than this information. But ladies and gentlemen, there is a dark side to this digital revolution that has made information easily accessible. One that poses a threat to our very existence. The spread of misinformation and disinformation. As all of us know, sound decision-making relies on the ability of an individual to analyze the facts at hand and come to a rational conclusion about the best course of action based on those facts. If humans, we don't act instinctively like animals. We act on available information. That's what makes us human. If the individual is making decisions based on information that is false or otherwise unreliable, then those decisions may not be in the interest of that individual or institution for which they work. You can now imagine this happening at a national scale. This could be a real digital pandemic, if you may. We can also imagine disinformation as it relates to individuals working for government, tasked to make decisions and making policies that directly affect our national security. If those decisions on policies are based on false information, they will definitely be contrary to the national security interest of the country. If, for example, disinformation being promoted by a foreign adversary, it may lead to actions that benefit that adversary, but also work to weaken the country in question and probably her allies. Disinformation exacerbates partisan divides and erodes public faith in governments, threatening the core of democracy. The public can be deceived through disinformation as well, resulting in action that is contrary to public health and safety, and even action in government itself. A misinformed public can place pressure on policymakers to undertake decisions based on false information. So misinformation threatens the existence of the state. And whatever threatens the existence of the state threatens the core of our existence, because there's nothing that can be done without the state, whether we like it or not. We have had people talking about liberties and freedoms. I love my liberties. I love my freedoms, because I'm one who enjoys my life to the most. I can't do that without having liberties and freedoms. But there can't be freedoms and liberties in a chaotic environment. There can't be freedoms and liberties without a state machinery. A state machinery creates the environment from which we can enjoy our liberties. This keynote address highlights the dangers posed by misinformation and disinformation, the impact they have on our lives and our country, and most importantly, strategy that we can take up to combat this threat. Ladies and gentlemen, this is no exaggeration when I say the pen, as you might know, is mightier than the sword. This saying is far more famous than its English author, Edward Bloor Lytton, and I feel that it's not only aligned with what the Department of Journalism and Communication stands for, the power of the written word, but it also speaks to the grave battle that we face with misinformation and disinformation. For some context around the power of written word and images, allow me to present you with some statistics. Manipulated and falsified information is now the most severe short-term risk the world faces, according to Global Risk Report 2024. Over the next 2 years, misinformation and disinformation will present one of the biggest ever challenge to the democratic process. Misinformation and disinformation will radically disrupt electoral processes in several economies. When you are in the wild and you see lions running away, elephants scampering for cover, buffaloes running away relentlessly, you must know that there is something seriously threatening in the world. When you hear America saying that some countries have attempted to disrupt the electoral process, then you know that all of us are not safe. This disruption will trigger civil unrest and confrontation. It will also lead to growing distrust of the media and government sources and deepen polarized views in societies where political opinion is already entrenched. The risk presented by misinformation and disinformation magnify the widespread adoption of generative AI to produce what is known as synthetic content. This ranges from deepfake videos, voice cloning, and the production of counterfeit websites. These days, when you talk with somebody on the phone, you'll never know whether you're actually talking with that person. And I'm sure soon we are going to develop new measures on passwords. Even when you call, again, the other receiver will say, yes, I'm receiving you loud and clear, but can I get your password if you think you are Nyombi Tembo? Then I'll give my password for you to another layer of being very sure. Because AI, generative AI, by the way, is the best one is best at cloning voices. Cloning numbers, that's very basic algorithms. Cloning numbers, so that's a number that calls you, will look like that number which you have in your phone book. That's basically AI. So, Commander, for you in the command, your soldiers, somebody will tell them to attack, thinking that you are the one telling them that this time to attack, when actually the adversary is luring them into an ambush. So a lot is going to happen in this space, and you have to be very, very careful. Cloning voices and production of counterfeit websites. A January 2024 statistical report on fake news in the United States indicated that 23% of the people are confident in recognizing only 23 fake news. Another survey in 2023 measuring trust in the media worldwide showed there was a drop in trust in the media in almost all countries that were surveyed. Did you know that there were deep fake instances increased by 1,040% in North America in 2024? Obviously, with the capability to detect them in that part of the world, you can only imagine what is happening in jurisdictions where there may be no capacity to detect these facts. While these statistics do not specifically speak to Ugandan context, you can still see why we should be alarmed, especially since we digest much of the same news that people in the US do. Now, having set the scene, let us unpack what misinformation and disinformation are. Obviously, for obvious reasons, just for emphasis. Misinformation is the spread of false or inaccurate information. This is false and inaccurate, but it's not deliberate. A quick way of remembering what it is that is the information with mistakes. Misinformation, its purpose is not necessarily to mislead. An example of misinformation is the supposed earthquake in Dubai in January 2023. There were several posts on X related to the supposed earthquake. The accurate story, however, is that Dubai Pearl, which consists of 1,090 apartments, 7 five-star hotels, more than 60 restaurants, and a theater that accommodated 1,600 people, was demolished, and the power of the demolition led to nearby areas experiencing demolition-related tremors. And people posted that there had been earthquake in Dubai. They didn't bother to verify, and they were not real. Their intention was not to mislead. So misinformation is like a rumor that starts and results in widespread belief. Disinformation, on the other hand, is information that is intentionally crafted and spread with the goal of misleading the receiver. Its intent is to sow seeds of doubt, confusion, and mistrust. When you consider how hyper-connected we are today, this information spreads at a terrific speed, reaching large audiences. An example of disinformation that we, as Ugandans, can identify with in respect to COVID-19, from the origin of the virus to supposed cures, to disinformation related to vaccines. A lot. Actually, a friend of mine in the medical circle told me that so many people suffered from concoctions which were supposedly to be cure to COVID, which were spread on social media. These concoctions led to more deaths, probably, will continue to lead to more deaths than the cumulative death of COVID in Uganda. People will tell you to take anything, and that people believe. People will tell you that if you have joint pain, bring an avocado and rub it around your knee. Then the pain will go. You can imagine. You can imagine. And you find people wasting a lot of their time doing that, to the extent that they can even ignore professional advice because they have heard from the social media. To say that we are highly vulnerable to the shifting dissemination of foreign information is not being alarmist. Out of the 15 million smartphone users in Uganda, approximately half, which is 7.5 million people, are active on social networks like WhatsApp. To fill the information gap for those who do not have access to smartphones, all we need to do is to pick up the phone and call people to notify them of the news we have seen on WhatsApp. That's now spreading. If they have not already had it on the local radio station, the local radio station used to be used to verify the information we receive. Unfortunately, some of our untrained and unprofessional radio presenters have turned on social media as their source of information and news. So even where we used to run to for verification, now they're also quoting social media. Actually, there's a radio station. We talked to them and they stopped it. They used to mislead the people that they have networks all over the world. So they will talk about Hamas attacking. Well, they say, now we have our reporter from Jerusalem. He is going to give us what. So this September, what is happening there? When the man was there sitting in the studio. You can imagine such a unprofessionalism. A well-known example of this information, which is still playing out today, is 2016 US presidential election. All of us had the screens. The campaign that ran are said to have used this information to create divisions, sow discord, and overall erode public trust in the entire electoral process. Nearly in every country where elections have taken place in the past 5 years, there have been some complaints about attempts to try to misinform the electorate, to make decisions based on information that's not correct. The impact of misinformation, disinformation on individuals as well as communities can be both far-reaching and of an overwhelming nature. Let us not forget that it's our brain that digests, processes, and stores this information. From an individual perspective, misinformation, disinformation can cause one to believe in inaccurate information and thereby inform their beliefs on particular issue. Disinformation can result in a person being close to hearing information contrary to what they have already decided is true. I'm sure you and I know one or two such a people. Looking at the psychological effects, being exposed to misinformation and disinformation can lead to anxiety, anger, and fear. At its worst, exposure to this type of information can lead to immense stress and difficulty in decision making. Finally, from an individual perspective, continued or repeated exposure to misinformation and disinformation can lead to an individual losing trust in traditional information sources such as government, media, or experts. This results in a situation where individuals adopt a skeptical view of all information from these sources, making it more likely for them to buy into conspiracy theories. When we look at how communities are affected by disinformation and misinformation, it is basically all the impacts we have explored at the individual level, but amplified since it engulfs entire communities or societies. The first casualty becomes societal cohesion. Cohesion gives way to division and can even go as far as social polarization. Instead of an individual becoming entrenched in a particular belief, it's now an entire community that takes on this persona. Now, when it is wrapped up in hate speech, you can imagine what can happen. That will be a flame. Societies will just explode. This can result in increased tension arising between different communities. The impact of misinformation, disinformation often escalates to civic engagement and democratic processes. Wrong or intentionally misleading information can result in loss of trust and confidence in individuals and institutions, and result in overall decreased civil participation. A lot of time, this is illustrated in the variance between registered voters and voters who actually participate in democratic processes such as elections or even community dialogues. Ladies and gentlemen, there are also economic repercussions associated with the spread of misinformation and disinformation. For institutions, for example, falsifying financial reports to boost shareholder confidence can result in market fluctuation and adverse impact on the broader economy. In worst case scenario, misinformation and disinformation can lead to outright violence and conflict. False or intentionally misleading information can lead to unrest, riots, or even genocide. Overall, the spread of misinformation and disinformation leads to the weakening or fragmentation of societal cohesion and pose a significant challenge to leadership structures when the need to mobilize engagement around critical issues like public health and climate change arises. So the question looming is for us, what can we do? Can we sit and watch? At one time in this space, in some 15 years back, the conversation was that the internet was holy. Nobody should touch the internet. Even the organization that coordinates internet worldwide is a non-government organization, ICANN, because of that philosophy, which I believe is a wrong philosophy. Any massively consumed service cannot be left at the whims of chance. There's no way. 6 billion people are connected. Everybody with a smartphone is a journalist, is a television. And you say that space is holy, shouldn't be regulated because liberties will be harmed. We like liberties. All of us like liberties. Why do we control traffic? There are less people driving globally on roads than people owning smartphones. It's true. But traffic is highly regulated. Why? Speed regulated. When you are crossing junctions, you don't cross on the red. There must be somebody to regulate. Penalties and incentives are being designed in that regulatory space. Is that touching our liberty? No. It's promoting organized environment in traffic. You could imagine, just imagine, fewer vehicles. I think in Uganda we haven't reached 250,000 vehicles on our roads. But I've told you have 15 million smartphones. But every morning when I see the number of traffic policemen to regulate only 250,000 vehicles on the roads. Yes, you don't want to go fast, they'll say no. Here, the speed is 40 per hour. Yes. Maybe my liberty to drive. One young man was telling me that we should remove speed restriction on the expressway. He's reasoning that this is the only good international road in Uganda. We bought our vehicles of 6,000 cc, the only place where we can drive them at 160 kilometers per hour is that. Why should you put? He had a point, but I mean, the expressway, as you know, at one time the Entebbe Kampala road was the road with the highest mortality rates at one time. The expressway was becoming the road with high mortality rate, with the separation, 2 lanes on each side, but it had started registering high mortality rate because of lack of regulation. Until when I think police has come in now to make sure that they regulate speed on that road. So a massively consumed service like this one, you can't leave it without some kind of regulation. Of course, a balance between liberties and responsibility. There should be a balance. I'm happy that the people who are pushing this line of argument are now changing. And this started way back, I think 12 years ago, when one lousy person went on Facebook, showed Nabi Muhammad in a terrible way, and just because he was an American, of course, American government didn't tell him to do that. But just because he was an American, the American embassy was attacked in Benghazi. And 2 diplomats were killed. You can imagine. Somebody on his phone has done something, nothing to do with the American government, nothing to do with the American people. But people now believe it's America that is against Nabi Muhammad. And 2 diplomats lose their lives at the embassy. This is the story of our recent times. So the narrative is changing. The big techs are changing. You saw recently when Facebook was appearing before the Senate. Yeah. And now we know that the big tech knows what to do to help us with this misinformation. They have all the algorithms to stop some misinformation on their networks. But because they have put profit before everything, hiding under liberties and human rights, they are not doing what they're supposed to do. The good news, the European Union has come up to engage the big techs. I think America is coming up to engage the big techs. Africa must rise up to engage the big techs, because that's the first line of defense. Given the other methods which I'm going to discuss here. The first line of defense is to make sure the big techs, X, TikTok, Facebook, Amazon, they must play ball because they write the algorithms, they have the servers, they have the capability of sorting out most of this mess. That should be the starting point. Then all others will follow. Unfortunately, there's no certain proven method that works in all cases for defeating disinformation. One side doesn't fit all. There's need to think innovatively to combat this menace. There are various reasons for why disinformation and misinformation are appearing, and the methods for negating these reasons vary appropriately. It's therefore helpful to have a variety of tools with which to respond. In the long term, societies must be ingrained with an inherent resistance to disinformation. Some type of information inoculation in the form of knowledge and skills will be a necessary component for continuing a viable civic society. The goal is for people to generate a cognitive immune response by which they instinctively engage in a process to determine whether the information they are being exposed to is legitimate. Critical thinking skills and media literacy are important components of addressing susceptibility to disinformation. Early education, beginning in middle school, is important for increasing long-term societal resilience to disinformation. Setting strict rules in the cyberspace and ensuring compliance through a multitude of incentives and penalties is another way we need to think about seriously. Incentives and penalties. The good thing, the biggest problem in this space of know your customer NYC is solved because all of us are connected. Of course, with these fake websites, you might not know the origin. But of course, websites are hosted also. Also, websites move on our networks. Also, that area, we can look there. But at least the greater majority of us, on the web, on the internet, with our smartphone, we are known. So, incentive scheme and penalties scheme, we should think about those areas very, very seriously. Every time I want to drive now in the park, they have put a speed restriction of 40 kilometers per hour with the cameras. And the roads are very, very good, especially in Action Falls National Park. The best roads in the country. But speed restriction, 40 kilometers per hour, what they have done? Cameras. Every time you want to exceed 40, you think of the camera, you think about the 200,000. Can't we build some models around this? The people who originate misinformation, those who spread misinformation. And penalties are easy even to manage because the phone is the wallet. The phone is the wallet. Let's think innovatively. Of course, balancing liberties, human rights, and responsibility. And I think that's how humanity has been able to survive. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not all doom and gloom. There are strategies to come we can implement that can go a long way in fighting this scourge. First and foremost, we must arm ourselves with digital literacy skills. We know the type of enemy we are up against, so we need to ensure that we have the skills that allow us to evaluate the information we are presented with. This digital literacy skills is for all ages, since it's all ages that are affected by misinformation and disinformation. Before we hit the share button, have we done a quick check from wherever to see if the story we are sharing has been written about elsewhere? At the end of the day, it starts with me and you. The second strategy, I think this one we need to mobilize our people. The Rotarian have a very good approach. They have four-way test, which can work very well in this kind of space. Before it spread, because misinformation thrives on sharing, the originators could have their own intentions. But most of the people who share may not share the intentions of the originators, but they innocently share. And the majority who really spread this misinformation are those ones who innocently share. So we are saying, if we apply, because I don't think they have a copyright, the Rotary people, they shouldn't take me to court. I don't think they have copyrighted this. Of course, they are international people, they are global people, they want us also to copy their doctrine. So before you share, can you ask yourself, is it the truth? That's one of the four-way tests for the Rotarian. Is it the truth? What I'm going to share? Somebody has said, people are so much, I don't know what they like about declaring people dead when we are not dead. But of course one day we shall die. But why do you bother to declare me dead when I haven't died? One day I'll die. If you're interested to see me dying, you'll enjoy when I die before you. If I die before you, you enjoy that moment. But don't declare me dead before I die. Eh? So before you press that button, say, is this the truth? Try to verify. Then, is it fair for all concerned? This hate speech, is it fair for you to share it so that even other people hear this kind of hate speech? Will it build goodwill and better friendship? And is it beneficial to all concerned? If you ask ourselves those four questions before we shared, then probably the sharing bit will go down. And when the sharing bit goes down, definitely the spread at which misinformation, the speed at which misinformation moves will also go down. So for me, I'm of unshakable belief that there is indeed strength in numbers, and if all of us play ball, the big techs, the regulators, and the good, well-intentioned individuals will emerge victorious. Humanity has been trained to sniff out those things that don't benefit it very, very effectively. Humanity has that capability. I know humanity will sniff out misinformation and disinformation. But of course, it needs leverage through public policy interventions, legislatory processes, through all of us who are well-intentioned people, to play ball. I'm sure we'll be able to defeat disinformation and misinformation, and we use our well-intentioned artificial intelligence for the benefit of humanity, for God and my country.
We thank you for your keynote address, Honorable Nyombi Tembo. The department has a small gift for you that we request the Minister to pass on to you. We're going to request our Head of Department to please come forward, and our Vice Chancellor, so that you witness this moment as we thank Honorable Tembo for whatever is in here, that the Head of Department will, if she wants, open and show the public what it is that we are giving Omukulu. As that happens, Professor Nasanga, please get ready to come and read the citation of our next keynote speaker. Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Honorable Nyombi Tembo. Thank you for the insights shared. We appreciate, and we thank the group that is tweeting and engaging the online audience for further discussions on this. Yes, Professor Goretti Nasanga is our only professor at the Department of Journalism and Communication. Thank you so much. Will you please read the next citation?
Thank you, MC. We've had a very stimulating address. I promise we are going to have an even more stimulating or equally stimulating keynote. Honorable Nyumbi Tembo, we are very grateful for taking the time to come and give the keynote to our annual media convention this year. As you have witnessed, this was given by the director of Uganda Communications Commission. Indeed, he talked with authority because he was very fast with what was happening in the field. We are very grateful for that. One thing that struck me was raising our awareness about misinformation and disinformation being one of the biggest global risks now. This report he cited was not of 2000, but it is of today, 2024. So we're better aware, as we discuss these things, they really have a big impact, that we should be able to discuss ways of how to not only see them as threats or risks, but also how to take advantage of the digital revolution. So from the digital revolution now, and looking at the platform shifts in the spread of news and information, we are now going to AI. Of course, these are related phenomena. So we are going to listen to Professor Bruce Motsavairo. He is one of our academic giants on the African continent. So he is a professor and chair of media, politics, and the Global South in the Faculty of Humanities at Utrecht University. Professor Motsavairo is the co-editor of two of the Springer International Publishing book series. This is one of the biggest academic publishers. So these have jointly been published, over 30 books, and these have focused mainly on journalism, media and communication research in the field of relating to the digital revolution and AI. He has also co-authored over 20 scholarly books and special themed issues in high-impact journalism and media journals. His work investigates the impact of technological transformation in global journalism practices, particularly in conflict and non-democratic settings. And we know in Africa we have enough of those. Professor Motsavairo is currently supervising a team of academic staff who are associated with the Research Council of Norway. They have a funded project, Decoding Digital Media and African Regions of Conflict. This is an ongoing research project, and we are very privileged to have him over here. He has supervised 6 PhD projects to completion and currently acts as a promoter on 3 other PhD projects on topics ranging from framing of AI news in Dutch newspapers, digital China. China is of interest to all of us. We hear they opened shop in Kampala recently, but they've been forced to close because everybody is after their products. So he's into that also, as well as the impact of social media, disinformation in conflict countries. These are funded by the Dutch Research Council and the Research Council of Norway. So I have the pleasure to invite Professor Mutavairo to give us the second keynote. You are welcome.
Good afternoon. It is indeed a tough act to follow the previous keynote speaker. It's always hardest when you are the second speaker because everything that you want to say has already been said. So maybe we can move to the next part of the conference. Honorable State Minister of Information, Communication and National Guidance, Honorable Bakulu, the Vice Chancellor, the University Secretary, the Principal, the Dean, the Head of Department, as well as the Brigadier General. Protocols observed. It's an honor to be here at Makerere University, one of the most prominent universities on the African continent. I would like to begin by thanking the organizers of the event for inviting me here to speak to you on such an important occasion, the annual media convention. The frightening speed with which misinformation is spreading on social media networks deserves significant attention. The misappropriation of social media platforms has become a worrying trend for every society in the world. It is not only sowing the seeds of social and political discord across Africa, but calamities such as inter-ethnic violence ignited by false content are posing a threat to some African countries' chances of embracing peace and economic prosperity. Today, everybody who has access to social media considers themselves an expert. Even when the World Health Organization was confirming the 2022 Ebola outbreak here in Uganda, there were some keyboard warriors who felt that was not the case. They took to social media to spread their conspiracy theories. I must say, in the context of such a seemingly gloomy picture, it is quite remarkable to note that Ugandans trust conventional media outlets such as radio and TV than social media, according to a recent study led by a Ugandan scholar, David Lagoro Kitara, which investigated the most trusted sources of news among Ugandans during the COVID-19 pandemic. Conversely, many Africans tend to digital and social media establishments as their main source of news, with a study of 16 countries confirming a rise of the rise from 22% to 38% between 2015 and 2020. That's a study led by Hassan, published in 2021. Another 2021 study of 6 African countries led by Dani Madrid Morales concluded that many university students, and I know we have many students here, decided to spread misinformation because they felt it was their civic duty to do so. At the same time, they chose to spread misinformation because they felt it was a fun thing to do. Our students must be bored, I guess. But first, maybe we need to ask ourselves, what exactly is misinformation? Unlike disinformation, which is considered a deliberate sharing of false information, misinformation refers to, in layman's language, to the unintentional sharing of falsehoods. It is therefore possible that many people who share information online, they actually do it without the intention to harm, or without the knowledge that the content that they are sharing could actually be harmful to other people. The rapid rise of misinformation on social media platforms has prompted widespread regulation across Africa, including here in Uganda. Is regulation the answer to combating misinformation online? We have heard from the honorable previous speaker, he obviously believes so, and I guess he has to, because otherwise he would not have a job. But I think misinformation, or I equate misinformation to the border. These guys, they will not just go away. No matter how many penalties you give, they are always going to be there. They are part and parcel of the Ugandan or the African society. I'll get back to that question later. At the same time, many are asking, why are we not embracing algorithms of technological platforms to help us tame the proliferation of fake news and misinformation? Indeed, algorithms can be trained to detect misinformation. However, I am not a very big fan of AI. In general, if you have come across my work, you probably know that I'm a techno-skeptic. I wasn't sure how this talk would be received if all I had to do was to stand up and bash technology from start to finish. So then when I thought deeply, I came to realize AI could indeed be useful in advancing the citizen-based approaches that I believe are instrumental to African society's bid to fight falsehoods online. But first, I hope I'm not the only person in this room worried that the integration of AI in our fight against misinformation could actually make the situation worse. Last year, I attended a Mozilla Foundation workshop, perhaps some colleagues were there as well, on AI and society in Kenya. I was a bit worried to see that most of the people I spoke to were upbeat about the arrival of AI in African societies. What I missed were the critical voices discussing the use of AI among bad actors to boost the reach and impact of false messages online. If we are talking about the use of AI to combat misinformation, we should be aware that AI also has the capacity to magnify the spread of misinformation online. As such, the phenomenon that I'm currently developing is called citizen fact-checking. I define it as a citizen-led movement to define the demarcation line between fact and fiction. While this is yet to be fully tested, I strongly believe the use of citizens as fact-checkers could help reduce the spread of false information online. This is because, generally speaking, Africans, and that includes Ugandans, do not always trust institutions. Yet the main players on the forefront of fighting misinformation are institutions such as state-owned media. On the other hand, citizens who are mainly responsible for spreading misinformation are left out of the predominantly elite-driven mechanisms to combat misinformation. You can look at the lineup of the speakers at this conference, and I'm not criticizing the organizers, but it would have been nice to hear from a grandmother in the village speak about how she is experiencing misinformation, because of course we always feel we know how to solve problems. My personal belief is we have got to engage the people who are actually spreading the misinformation online. I believe there is ultimately a role to play for AI tools, which could be used not only to identify misinformation, but also to educate citizens on what exactly should be considered misinformation or not. Journalists, policymakers, and other stakeholders such as activists and the academia could be important collaborators in this process. In fact, it is not a secret that tackling false or malicious content online can only become effective through collaboration between various stakeholders. Research by a team of Ugandan scholars is currently investigating the power of engaging community influencers as a way of dissuading COVID-19 misinformation in Buikwe district here in Uganda. As far as I know, the study is led by Dr. Fred Eric Kututu and his colleagues from the School of Health here at Makerere University, and it's currently underway. I'm one of those who is eagerly waiting to see the findings. This is because our societies here in Africa are very community-oriented. It is one of our strengths, in fact. I wonder, therefore, whether citizen fact-checking as part of a community-engaged learning process could help reduce misinformation. Today in Uganda, as it is across the world, it is not uncommon for WhatsApp group members to receive requests for fact-checking. We should always remember that misinformation happens, even when people who are spreading such falsehoods are completely unaware that they are in fact misinforming others. In this way, I think community-based means of tackling misinformation could essentially be effective. However, communities cannot do it alone. There is need for other actors to jump in, and like I said, collaboration is key. For example, media literacy has been singled out as one of the main reasons standing in the way of society's plans to defeat misinformation. In an experimental study of 187 respondents at the University of Ghana, Adin Teiti 2022 reveals that students who are trained in media and information literacy were not only more likely to detect misinformation and disinformation, but they were also less reluctant to share such news. The previous speaker said sharing was very important. We therefore need experts that can train citizens to identify misinformation. We may need to think about social media tools that could be used to provide communities with basic understanding of misinformation. Journalists who naturally have experience informing, but also in some cases misinforming the public, could play a big role here. They know what misinformation looks like. They know what the misinformation landscape looks like. The point I'm trying to drive home here is fact-checking needs a non-elite based approach. I don't think you need an academic degree to know what is true or false. Our grandmothers in the village have been dealing with misinformation for as long as they have lived. They are also experts. I'm proposing a method of tackling misinformation in which everyone, and especially those living in rural areas, feel they have a role to play in this war and fight against misinformation. Otherwise, we are simply buying into suggestions that AI effectively, or rather brings efficiency to combating misinformation, which I'm sure it does, but do we have the technological infrastructure that is good enough to host AI? What exactly do we mean by AI? What kind of AI do we need? Have we done enough research, Comrade Secretary? Is the University of Makerere doing enough to support research-based interventions to tackle misinformation? I think there lies your answer. How much research has been done in Uganda and in Africa to examine the real potential of AI in combating misinformation? Because that's, of course, having that empirically led interventions helps us understand whether AI is indeed the real deal. We should not be excited each time we see something new. How will Ugandan or African companies benefit from our investments in AI? Or do we want to continue making tech giants such as Amazon and Microsoft become even more richer? The platformization of journalism has been with us for several years now, and we have seen how it has impacted journalism through, for example, the loss of advertising revenue for publishers. At the same time, the already rich big tech industry has gotten even more richer at the expense of publishers here in Uganda. If Ugandan newsrooms start using AI as a means of combating misinformation, how will we know if they are not simply joining the bandwagon? How can we ensure that stored data is safe and secure and protected from abuse? Predictably, as reported in recent research, campaigns to dismantle the virality of disinformation are being mounted, with several countries, including Uganda and Kenya, turning to state-sponsored regulatory measures to tackle the consistent spread of inaccurate information. I think some form of regulation is necessary, but if we regulate social media, then we also have to regulate AI. Looking at the rate and pace through which technology is evolving, then we probably need to announce new regulations every day. Regulations are essential, but I do think they are as more effective as community-engaged mechanisms aimed at effectively tackling misinformation. replacing journalists with machines has plenty of implications on journalism practice. We have all heard about AI biases, and I'm not trying to say humans are not biased, but each time any of us fails to be transparent, we know what we do. They do get unmasked. In a recent report on AI and news practices, Felix Simon argues that journalists will potentially lose their autonomy to technology companies if they continue to adopt AI. If we assume that journalists ought to be independent from power holders or any other external structures, then AI could become a severe threat to the expectation that journalists have to make decisions without external pressure. I, of course, realize that thanks to the global rise of authoritarianism, independent journalism remains under threat, even in established democracies in the West. AI does not have the capacity to determine whether it's being lied to or not. Journalists do have that capacity. They are trained to do that. Adopting AI business models also means that many journalists will lose their jobs. Are we prepared to send our journalists home? We are seeing the hype. Several of us probably think AI is the way to go, but it is too soon to know, especially here in Africa, whether AI has the capacity to reduce facts that are making each time false content that is being shared. It wouldn't be totally wise to dismiss AI in this war against misinformation. Various scholars, such as Giuseppe Riva, have argued that AI tools can be trained to detect linguistic patterns associated with misinformation. He also believes one of the biggest advantages of using AI is the fact that it is embedded with automated fact-checking. AI is being used in many parts of the world to identify fabricated content. There are plenty of advantages, some that I've just mentioned, that have been discussed from within non-African contexts. It is important to be wary of the so-called advantages because our context is socially and politically different. Algorithms are already recommending content to us on social media. They tell us what and where to shop. It is as if we have stopped functioning as human beings. Robots are robots, and they will always be robots. While there is nothing wrong with experimenting with AI, we need to realize that our strength lies in our ability to speak to each other about what our society needs and putting trust on us as humans to find the solutions. Robots may gradually become an important ally, but we need to be cautious about these new technologies because if we look at our history, technologies have been used to colonize and suppress us here in Africa. As such, my point is AI can only complement our efforts to defeat deepfakes and all sorts of misinformation online. It cannot do it alone. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Prof. Mutsavairo, for such a moving speech with low tones of your dislike for technology. Yes, so at this moment, I again want to invite the head of department and our chief guest to give a token of appreciation to Professor Mutsavairo. Thank you very much. Oh, and the ED.
Yes, thank you very much. And it's only fair that the minister also gets his gift. May I request our principal, our dean, and our vice chancellor, and of course our head of department, to please come and give the minister his gift. Do you now want to open it?
Yes. Do you wish for us to open it?
Minister, would you like the audience to see what Makerere University is giving you? Okay.
So I'll ask the principal to pass it on to the VC, and then the VC will open it before handing it over to the minister.
And on that very note, I'm going to request that you do not take your seats again, but that the head of department and principal leads this team to, to a photo booth outside for a group photo, and then to a break tea. Ushers, please let's help the dignitaries, all our invited guests, begin to take a break tea. But before that, Dr. Fred Kakoza, please help coordinate the photo shoot. We have a beautiful photo booth outside. As Milton and team, the rest of us, let's kindly stay seated. The ushers will come for you to take you where you're supposed to have your tea from. But
NBS happening now.